I had some bad theology that if I prayed enough and if I was a good Christian wife and mom, nothing bad would ever happen to my family.
Welcome to the Healing Her podcast. Life comes at us fast, and keeping our balance can take real work. What would it look like to be emotionally and spiritually strong? Listen in as best friends Christi and Donna share stories of God's healing work in their lives. Donna is a licensed therapist, and Christi is a seasoned communicator. Together, they want to offer valuable tools and stories to help navigate the ups and downs of everyday life.
Do you have any ups and downs, Donna?
I have some ups and downs. I'm really high on positivity, but I also have ups and downs.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like positivity, I am a half full kind of gal.
Girl, me too.
And I'm a cheerleader in my heart.
Yeah, we
yes,
both are.
We are. However, I've gone through a lot of hard things.
Yes, we both have gone through a lot of hard things.
Yeah, I think this past year, calendar year, we've lost 3 of our parents and had a cancer diagnosis.
Yes.
So dealing with hard things is not foreign to me.
I know. It has been a tough year for you guys.
Yeah, a lot of tears.
Yes. And over the past 20 years, we have both experienced all kinds of things: health issues, moves, mental health issues, faith crisis, job loss, career change, friendship changes.
Yeah.
All of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of downs.
Mm-hmm. A
lot
of downs.
A lot of ups, meaning kids got married, grandbabies. I'm a Gigi to 5 grandbabies.
I'm currently expecting my first grandchild.
Yes.
And I'm going to be a Dee Dee.
So my husband is Jeff Vandervoort, 4th grade sweetheart, cutest boy in 4th grade. And I've wanted to marry him my whole life. And I feel like the luckiest girl in the world because I am.
Yeah. 36 years.
36 years. Yeah, this week.
Yeah. I am married to Jamie Durham, favorite person of all time, forever
He's
on always.
awesome.
He's awesome. He is also my Southern man, and we will celebrate 30 years married in January. And that's the reason why you might want to keep listening.
Yes, absolutely. So where do we go from here? What's this whole Healing Her podcast going to be about, Donna Durham?
I know. It's such a good question. So, we're both mature believers in Christ, and we believe we have some encouragement to offer, honestly, anybody who wants to listen, but the people that tend to ask us for help tend to be women and that are also Christ followers. As a therapist, I'm a Christian, and my niche tends to be women from a faith background who are coming in to work through some kind of struggle. And I consider myself a guide. I walk alongside them on whatever journey they are on currently. And so we want to be sharing the things that we have learned in our faith. One thing that we really believe is we can get stronger, that the storms of life that took me down earlier in my life, it doesn't take me down the same way because I feel like I have some tools. I feel like my faith in Christ is stronger. And I've done some healing work to where I'm way more okay when hard things happen.
Right. They don't have to keep us down in the soup.
Right. We
can work our way out.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think for myself, I'm not a marriage and family therapist. I'm a communicator, and I love Jesus. And I love how he's rescued me. I spent a lot of years believing lies in my head about myself, about Jeff, about what other people thought about me, what God thought about me. And so to be rescued, he really did do that for me.
Yeah.
And I just feel like my job on the planet is to tell people that he loves them. And he can, if he did it for me, Christi D, he can do it for anybody.
Yes, absolutely. And that is so much my story too. I think one of the things I want to be sure we communicate is We don't think that if you follow these guidelines, you're not going to have any trouble in life, or that things are going to be perfect. I believe we live in a fallen world,
Yes.
and that life is hard and God is faithful. And so a lot of our time together on the podcast will be about how to get through the hard.
How to get through the hard.
Yeah.
And that looks different for everyone. So my stories are not going to be your stories, obviously. However, I think that there are common threads that run through women's lives. You know, when we get married, we have expectations. When we have children, we think, wow, this is going to be so wonderful. But then you don't know how to care for a child and yourself at the same time.
Yeah.
Plus a husband and laundry and all this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's overwhelming,
It is.
right?
It's a lot.
So there are a lot of good things that bring hard. So it's not just all bad things like losing 3 parents in a year and a cancer diagnosis. Sometimes the hard comes with the very, very good.
Yes, absolutely.
And we praise God through those hard times.
Absolutely.
Because we need to stay in relationship with the Lord and be outward focusing, loving people, because we don't get through this life without being wounded. This episode's going to be about PTSD to peace.
Right.
So
it was in that season that I had a child that had a health crisis. And I had some bad theology that if I prayed enough and if I was a good Christian wife and mom, nothing bad would ever happen to my family.
Ooh, yeah.
It wrecked me. So I started, I was afraid all the time. My feet would tingle.
Okay.
My left eye would blur. I had a flinch.
What did that look like?
The flinch?
Yeah.
Like just from time to time, my left shoulder would just kind of
Okay.
tense up.
Like your body was reacting
My
to
body
something.
was totally reacting. And I was just scared. I thought I was dying. I thought I probably had MS or I had a brain tumor. And really could not believe. My husband never believed I was dying, but he did know something was wrong. And ironically, in my practice now, I often have women come in with medical anxiety or they're living under these, what if this happens? And they actually experience some of the exact same symptoms that I had.
Wow. Well, what a gift to your clients.
It's such a gift that I can say, I have been there and I do believe you're going to be okay.
Right.
But this is really hard.
Yeah.
So one thing that happened is I was gone one day and Jamie, my husband, I was not sleeping. I was losing weight. He knew I was not okay. And I had gone to counseling before we were ever even married. And so he reached back to my therapist, Margaret Phillips in Nashville, Tennessee, and said, hey, this is what's going on with Donna. Do you have a book you could recommend? She will totally read a book, because I was kind of a Christian book junkie. And she said, don't give her a book, but have her come see me when you guys come home for Christmas back in Nashville. So I went to see her, which, by the way, shout out to my man.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
What husband says something wrong with my wife? He believed you.
He believed
something
me.
wrong with my wife. She needs help. I don't know what to do for her.
Yes.
But I'm going to reach out to somebody who may.
Right. And I'll say, when I would wake up sometimes shaking in the middle of the night.
Oh, wow.
And I like shaking the whole bed. And he would wrap his arm around me and pray for me and hold me close. And that was like, I can't imagine a better thing.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful just for he is really great at loving kindness. He's a really kind person. So I went to see Margaret in December. And by the way, when she said to him, hey, have her come see me in December, I thought, she must believe that I could be okay.
Yes.
And that helped me so much. She didn't believe I was dying.
And so what So was this summertime? When
No,
was this?
yeah, this was like September.
September.
It was September that year, probably 2004. And no, maybe it's 2002. So somewhere around there. And I also, my friend Laura had called me just to tell me she was expecting a baby.
Okay.
She had been at the birth of 2 of my babies, and she's a nurse. And I just said, Laura, first of all, congratulations, you're having a baby. But I said, hey, I don't know what's going on with me.
Right.
And I told her what was going on, and she said, I told her my symptoms. She said, okay, I want to encourage you to go see a doctor.
Okay.
And and that doctor might ask you to take meds, and you might not like that,
Right.
but and this is another part of my story. Your mom would be really different if she would take meds.
Yeah.
I have a mom with mental illness that was undiagnosed for decades.
Right.
And so she knew that part of my story and just said, I think this can help you. And I trusted her. Like, I'm so grateful for the trusted people in my life. And honestly, like, that's a tool. Who are the people that you trust that you can go to when you're struggling?
You do not have to be alone.
You do not have to be alone.
You can reach out to people, even if they don't have the answers.
Right.
You have to find somebody in your life you can trust with your story.
Yes. Yeah. So I did. I went to the doctor, and
In Orange City?
in Orange City.
Okay.
And I said, I'm really struggling. He was actually the doctor that my son had seen, so he knew what had already happened in our family. And he said, I think this is anxiety. And I said, tell me why you think I'm not dying. And he
What a question.
he said, well, when did the symptoms start? And the symptoms started after this health event. And then he said, if it was a brain tumor, you would probably be experiencing this, and this. Anyways, and he had the sweetest nurse in the world. But so he encouraged me to take some meds. I had not wanted to take meds because I thought, and I hear this all the time in my office, I thought it meant my faith wasn't strong enough.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
I know.
And it's a lie.
I know, it's totally a lie. And I don't even know where it came from.
Right.
I don't know. I just thought, well, if I was really a strong enough Christian, I would not be struggling like this. But I took the meds. And for the first 3 mornings, I woke up with a song in my spirit of all things are possible. And I felt like the Lord was saying, my love for you has 0 to do with whether you take meds or not. Wow. This is not, you're questioning my power in your life, my love, any of those things.
I think it's amazing how God speaks to us.
I do dream a lot.
But you also get songs
I do.
that speak to you. And often there's a knowing
Yes.
inside of you.
Yes. That's right.
So God says he will never leave us or forsake us.
Yes.
Even when we're having trauma come out of your body.
Yes. Yeah. And I literally can just remember one day I'd gotten out of the shower and I just laid on the bed and I was like, God, my whole life I have believed in you. You have to be real.
Yeah.
And he is real and he was real, but I was living under stuff that just was not actually him.
Right.
And that is really where, so when I went to Nashville that Christmas, Margaret said, we have memories stored in the cells of our bodies. And when things happen, that, like, so if I experience extreme fear,
Right.
it may touch off some unresolved things that happened to me when I was younger.
Right.
And that my body, it seemed, was replaying that fear, but my brain was did not actually know what was going on. So as I mentioned, my mom is mentally ill. She's bipolar, also schizophrenia, also paranoid. And so growing up with that was crazy town.
Literally crazy town.
Yeah. And I don't mean to laugh. I know those are serious diagnoses.
Yes.
And I do think some of the way my family dealt with a lot of stuff growing up was just to laugh.
Yes.
And it's not a terrible defense mechanism. It's just one of the
laughter
defense
is good
mechanisms.
medicine.
Yeah.
That's scriptural.
Yeah. So, she told me you're going to need to go back to the memories of your childhood to heal.
Yeah.
And so for a long season, I would sit in a chair in my room after the kids were in bed. Remember, I'm on meds. I've started to sleep. I've started to gain weight. I have more of a sense of calm in my life, but I'm really inviting Jesus to show me where did this fear come from?
Right.
And so for this long season, I have journals and journals and journals
Right.
of the Lord literally bringing up these memories from my childhood that they just happened and I went on. They happened and I went on. They happened and I went on.
Right.
And
They were never resolved.
They were never resolved. And children need a safe, loving, nurturing presence to help them make sense of the world.
Right.
And I did not have that.
Children should not be raising themselves.
Right.
Parenting their parents.
Right.
Trying to make the household run.
Right.
And
That's
you were
right.
doing that.
And I was doing those things.
Yes.
I was one person doing those things.
Right. Right.
So, as I would discover these memories, I would also just ask the Lord, like, where were you? Or what is the truth here?
Right.
And literally one at a time, he just, I mean, sometimes I had experiences where I felt like the golden stream of his presence was pouring directly into my soul and spirit.
Oh my goodness.
And one night I literally I went to the other room and said, hey, Jamie, come in here. I want to see if you can feel this.
Yeah.
And he just came in and sat on the bed and he didn't feel anything. And I was like, okay, this is something God's doing in me.
Yeah.
But I also got to a point where I kind of wasn't making as much progress on my own. And healing was really comprehensive, right?
Right. Right.
I eventually saw a therapist. I did take meds. I also exercised.
Right.
So I was doing 3 times a day for 20 minutes. I would stretch my body because my body was so tense.
Yeah. So our body keeps the score.
Yes, that's
Our
right.
body holds on to trauma.
That's right.
And it reacts to it.
Yes.
So you can tense up. You can have physical pain because of trauma. And so you stretched your body to help alleviate some of that.
Yes.
Does trauma go out of your body then? How does that work?
That's probably another question for when we talk about EMDR.
Right.
And EMDR is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And I actually didn't utilize that during that, but that is another way that we think of trauma leaving our bodies.
Okay.
But I do think these other things did help the trauma leave my body.
Okay.
My friend Joan, who's also a therapist, we were going on walks, talking. My friend Karen Wildstra, she would check in with me almost every day.
What
She
a
brought
dear.
me dinner. I mean, the care that I experienced from people around me was part of the healing.
Right.
It really, really was.
You are not alone in the soup.
Yes, I was not alone in the soup. And then a key part of my life was I had looked in the back of my church's inner healing manual from my church in Franklin and looked at some resources. And one of the resources was a book called The Healing Presence by a woman named Leanne Payne. I remember opening up and reading it and also feeling that sense of it was like a stream of God's presence, pouring into my soul. And I read so long that I was late to work. I used to run the costume shop at Northwestern College. And then also I was late getting Jack to afternoon preschool. And I wasn't beating myself up in my head oh, you always do this.
Yes,
Blah, blah, blah.
That's self-talk.
It's the worst. I actually had a lot of peace. I got him to school and I walked into my costume shop and everything was fine. And I just thought, what would it be like if life was like this?
Like peace.
Yeah, like peace.
Not this constant condemnation.
Right. not constant condemnation, not judgment, not criticism.
And then shame.
Oh, totally. Yeah. But just like peace. And was on a journey in that season. I think it was probably 4 to 6 months that I had the kind of most active symptoms. But in that season, I also really learned, like, in those memories, to forgive the person that harmed me.
Oh my word. I mean, that is key.
Yeah.
That is the key to healing.
Yes.
Is forgiveness.
Yes.
Because what is that saying? That if you hold on to unforgiveness, it's drinking poison, but hoping somebody else dies. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We hold on to that.
Yes.
And it slowly kills us.
Right. It does. And so little by little, I would ask for the power of the cross, that Jesus would give me the power of the cross to forgive anyone that's harmed me.
Right.
And one of the things that Leanne Payne talks about is seeing that sin, that hurt, that offense go into the cross. And that has just been a huge part of healing my mind, my body, my soul, my spirit.
Right. I remember one time practicing that and giving Jesus, like presenting Jesus with my wound. And one of the things I learned is that he loves to give us something in return.
Yeah.
He gives good gifts.
Yes.
And one time I did that, and he offered me a mantle of peace.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
And those are the kinds of things that you don't realize that he actively does for us.
Yes.
If we ask, if we'll just engage with the living God.
Yes.
But we don't know.
That's right.
We don't know to do that.
Yeah.
So what else happened? How long were you on meds?
I think I was on meds for about 6 months.
6 months. And the first thing that, because of the medication, the first thing that you noticed was you were able to sleep.
I was able to sleep, and I was eating better.
And you were eating better.
And so I gained weight back to being a normal size, like an average size or whatever, instead of feeling like my body was really withering.
Right. And then I just wanted to ask, so it was 4 to 6 months where you feel like you got your equilibrium back.
Yeah.
And then it's been a journey ever since.
It has been. That, I would say, that was it was like this big beginning point of how can I feel different inside?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful. And I think it's also important to understand that we often get to a crisis, whether it's a crisis of belief, like I had, or this physical crisis, like your body was reacting to the trauma. We get to a point like that, whether it's emotionally or physically. Yeah. And that is the point where we're at the end of ourselves and we need to ask for help.
Right.
And that's when, obviously where we are weak.
Yes.
He is strong.
Yes.
And we don't have to stay in that place.
Right.
But I think a lot of people get stuck there.
Sure.
And so what do you see in your practice?
Well, people in my practice are coming to someone for help.
Yes.
Typically if we will use a number of tools, right? We'll use mindfulness to help interrupt the anxiety.
Okay. I don't even know what mindfulness is.
Okay. So mindfulness is developing a practice of being able to notice your thoughts, but recognizing that you're separate from those thoughts.
Okay.
So it's not like I'm driving in this car and I'm afraid I'm going to have an accident, so I'm going to have an accident. It's like creating this separation. I'm driving in the car and I notice fear and I'm afraid I'm going to have an accident. And I'm actually okay. Like developing the ability to go, that's actually not happening. Right. I'm staying on the road. I'm going to go to my breath. I'm going to push my feet into the floor. Of course, you might not do that when you're driving. But
especially not in Nashville.
Things when people are experiencing anxiety is like, ground yourself, push your feet into the floor, take a deep breath, allow the thoughts to go through your head. And I actually talk also a lot about when you notice catastrophizing thoughts, move towards what is actually true. So what ifs are the on-ramp to anxiety.
Okay.
And so if we can find an off-ramp, which is even completely shifting away from the idea of the fear that I'm in, but moving towards bringing up like somebody that you love. You know, I will sometimes bring Jamie's face, you know, to my memory or my thought, and I will just hold him there. Or I will even, like, if I have a necklace, like a necklace that a friend gave me, or a necklace with my kids' birthstones on it, and I might just bring them to mind. And so then I'm not going, don't be anxious, don't be anxious, don't be anxious. I'm going, I'm remembering that I'm loved and connected.
Yes, yes.
And that helps my brain shift away from those neuropathways and into like a calmer, safer part of me.
Sure. What I find interesting is something you said, that our bodies want to heal.
Yes. Yeah.
I'd like to explore that. They want to heal. Like, we are wonderfully made, you know? So healing is a part of our DNA.
Yeah.
That's how God made us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're meant, I mean, if we break a bone, obviously it mends.
Right. It does.
So why wouldn't our hearts and emotions
see
mend
that
too?
And that is a great point. And I remember this meant so much to me too. I was listening to a radio program, and this person said, he was a physician. He said, our hearts, our minds, and our bodies are close neighbors.
Oh.
And they often catch each other's ills. Because one of the things I got hung up on was, why am I having physical manifestations if it's actually just my heart that's struggling, you know, or just my memories?
Yeah.
And it's because we are all connected.
Yes.
We are connected beings.
Yeah.
And so we are whole people, and we need whole ways to heal. It's very often not going to be one thing.
Right.
You know, talk therapy is great. Trauma therapy is great. Meds work for a lot of people. Exercise is important. Eating, like moving towards, you reduce the junk food.
Right.
Make sure you're drinking water.
Yes.
Having a variety of activities, like not working all the time, you know, so, and a variety of things that you do. It just helps create more of a whole life.
Right. So I think what we want to leave people with today is, you can be in trauma. You can have PTSD. And PTSD, in my mind, you know, I have three of my sons were in the Air Force, and 2 of my daughters-in-law. And PTSD often is linked in my mind to the military service.
Sure.
But it doesn't have to be.
No.
Just talk about that briefly.
Yeah, that's great. PTSD basically just means that your nervous system and your brain got overwhelmed.
Okay.
It got overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And your brain does not know how to release. Like when you go to bed at night, your brain processes everything that happened during the day.
Right.
And it deposits it in the correct part of your brain.
Right.
But when we have something like trauma, like a short definition of trauma is, I thought I was safe and then I wasn't.
Ooh.
Then your brain is like, if you can imagine like a cartoon bubble over a little cartoon character, it's like that bubble's trying to get into your brain so it can be processed into the right bucket. And your brain's like, no way. We don't know what to do with you. We don't know how to make sense that happened. And so it just kind of stays outside. And so then people can, sometimes it's their bodies that are responding and they're not having like flashbacks. But for some people, PTSD is flashbacks. So it can be a variety of symptoms, but one thing that needs to happen is your nervous system needs to have ways to find safety and connection, and then be able to process those experiences, and then come back to a place of peace and rest.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It is.
It is amazing that now on this side of your life, you're actually helping people go from PTSD to peace.
That brings us to the end of this episode. Please check out the show notes for tools you can use to navigate the ups and downs in your life. As always, thanks for listening to the Healing Her podcast. If you enjoy our show, please subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. And be sure to come back next week for more healing conversations. You can also follow along on Instagram and Facebook and subscribe on YouTube. This podcast was created by Donna Durham and Christi Vandervoort. It was produced and recorded by Monty Godike.